the question that everyone has asked and continues to ask is, when are we going to get back to sports? Like, when's realistic to get back on the field? And by now, you know what my opinion has been, and that has been consider the source, right? I've said that over and over again, and I'll continue to say it. And last week we went through a whole bunch of dignitaries, be it Greg Sankey or Arthur Blank or Jeff Pash, who's the associate vice president, executive vice president of the NFL, Ed Ogeron, Dabo, on and on and on, right? And, well, over the weekend, the president weighed in on this. And let me be very clear up front before we even walk down this road. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care about politics. I don't care if you have an R, a D, or an I, or whatever else by your name. It is completely and wholly irrelevant to me. So don't bring that here because I don't care. You care about that, go listen to Talk 107.3. I don't care about politics. I don't care about your politics. I have no politics. I don't care. Have I made that clear enough? Have I made that abundantly clear? I do not care about your politics, who you voted for, who you will vote for. Don't care. All right? Thank you. So the president had a conference call on Saturday with the heads of all the major sports leagues. It was the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, Major League Soccer, WNBA, WWE, the PGA Tour, LPGA, UFC, NASCAR, IndyCar, and Breeders' Cup. So the commissioners, directors of all the major sports leagues in our country got together on a teleconference with the president, and Adam Schefter of ESPN and Woj jointly reported that Donald Trump says he believes the NFL season should start on time in September. Now, there was no transcript of the teleconference, but after the teleconference, the president went to his White House briefing and spoke to reporters there, and this issue did come up. And here's what the president said about sports resuming and getting fans back.
I want fans back in the arenas. I think it's by whenever we're ready. I mean, as soon as we can, obviously. And the fans want to be back, too. You know, they want to see basketball and baseball and football and hockey. They want to see their sports. They want to go out onto the golf courses and breathe nice, clean, beautiful, fresh air.
He was also pressed about a potential date.
I can't tell you a date, but I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. But, and, you know, we're not going to have separation for the rest of our times on the planet. We need it for this period of time, but eventually people are going to be able to occupy those seats in arenas next to each other, like we have for all of my life and all of your life.
So in the press briefing, on the record, he was non-committal about a date. The report from Schefter and Woj, citing sources familiar with the call, told ESPN that the president was optimistic that the NFL season should start on time in September. For what it's worth, also, something of this, that the National Women's Soccer League Commissioner Lisa Baird was not on the call, and she was upset about that. And while I could certainly understand her desire to be on that, I looked it up today. The average attendance at National Women's League Soccer is just over 7,000. There's 4 SEC baseball teams that average greater attendance. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but if you're the president and you're trying to have a conference call with the commissioners of the major sports leagues, you're talking about major gatherings of people or high school venues that would draw more than that. Again, not trying to be dismissive, but like at some point you had to cut it off somewhere. I mean, the WNBA was included, so the LPGA was included. So let's not get over our skis here. The other big question people might ask is, why not the NCAA? And this, for me, is going to be the most interesting question about college athletics, because college athletics is going to be more complicated because a university campus has to be open, right? Like, you can't have football athletes practicing or using the facilities while the university's closed. So the university has to reopen to allow students back on campus to be able to have the extracurriculars on campus. I mean, that makes sense, unless if there is some special exemption that might transpire. But until the campus is reopened, you can't, again, proceed with practices and things of that nature. Whereas for these professional sports leagues, whether there's fans there or not, they can still move forward with their business, as long as they're given the green light. So I guess you could look for college football and say, right, if campus isn't open by July, you're not having workouts throughout that month. What's a realistic time frame that you would need to have the campus reopen to get student athletes back and then in shape and ready for a season? I think that's That's why my assumption there is why the NCAA wasn't involved in that conference call. And when the pro leagues are back, obviously the NCAA would certainly follow suit. And I'll continue to make the point, like, regardless of your political affiliation or what you want, and regardless of their why, the bottom line is the President of the United States, the commissioner of all the major sports leagues, want to get back as soon as they possibly can. And they're targeting what looked like September for the NFL, but what we found out today, it's actually going to be earlier than that for other sports leagues. If you missed this news today, the PGA has rescheduled its championship events. And the first big news that came out was that the Masters released a statement earlier today saying that they had rescheduled the tournament for November. So what we're now looking at for the Masters is November 9th through the 15th. This is what the Masters put in a tweet earlier today. A quiet scenes from Augusta as the world of golf awaits November 9th through 15th, the intended dates for the Masters 2020. So there's some pictures of the Masters, and they announced there that the golf tournament will tee off in November of this year. If you're wondering, my initial thought was to go check because I was sitting there thinking, holy crap, is that LSU-Bama weekend? It's not. It's the following weekend, LSU-South Carolina. But the Masters in November is only part of this equation. What's of greater significance is that they've already announced the PGA Championship in San Francisco is moving to August 6th through 9th. The rescheduled date for the PGA Championship is early August. You're talking a full month before the NFL and college football would be occupying stadiums. Now, it is worth noting that the NFL would be in their preseason in August, so there theoretically would be full stadiums, well, to whatever degree stadiums are full for the NFL preseason. But the PGA Championship, August 6th through 9th. The U.S. Open has moved to September 17th through 20th. The Ryder Cup will remain at its original date, September 25th through 27th. And then the Masters is moving to November 12th through the 15th. The Open Championship has been canceled for the first time since World War II. There will be no rescheduled date for the Open Championship. They'll just keep it next year at Royal St. George in England. So this is more circumstantial evidence to suggest that, things are being rescheduled. We already know that the Kentucky Derby has been rescheduled for late August. Now you have professional golf events rescheduled for early August, and the president and sports leagues are looking forward to the NFL resuming in September. I'll keep going back to consider the source. Whenever you have the decision makers making these decisions, it shows you what their timeline is. And to a degree, yes, everything is indefinite because anything could change with something that has been, completely unprecedented in our society. But as they try to gather as much information as they can from medical experts and from leaders in other countries who have dealt with this, they're looking for potential timelines, and these are things that appear to be, anyway, at this point, sort of agreed upon. One more thing, and then we'll break. I went and looked up the college football schedule for that week. So it's week 11 would be week 11 of the college football season. That would be the November of the Masters. It would be November the 10th would be the Tuesday. The Saturday would be the 14th. But if you look at this weekend in college football, I don't doubt at all that the Masters in some respect consulted this, because this is a brutal weekend of college football. I mean, look at this with me here. The Thursday matchup is East Carolina at Cincinnati. The Friday matchups, Arizona State at Oregon and Virginia at Duke. I mean, look at the Saturday slate. Illinois, Indiana. Washington at USC. Boston College at Florida State. I mean, Miami, Virginia Tech would have been great 15 years ago and 20 years ago. I mean, what's there? Look at the schedule. I mean, I'm scrolling if you're watching. Rice, Louisiana Tech, Michigan at Rutgers. Your SEC games, Mississippi State at Kentucky. UMass at Auburn, UT Martin at Alabama, Missouri at Florida, Ole Miss, Arkansas. I mean, South Carolina, LSU, and Tennessee, Georgia are your two best SEC games that week. It's a brutal slate. So from the Masters standpoint, it's the NFL is what it is, and you're going to be competing with the major power in American professional sports. But as far as the Saturday, the Masters, you couldn't pick a better weekend. Georgia's out of town, and the college football slate stinks that weekend. So maybe the Masters might just draw after all, even going head-to-head with college football for the bulk of the weekend.